I'm going to continue this series where we're exploring the Jewish history in the various different key countries across the world. Over here, we've spoken about various countries already. Today we're going to speak about the country of El Salvador. And actually, we've already spoken about similar countries, you could say. Panama, Costa Rica. We've spoken about, we're trying to get breadth of all the countries. We've been speaking a lot about South American countries over the previous few weeks also, so I thought it's a key time now to speak about El Salvador. Now, the history of the Jewish community in this country goes back to the 1800s. Now, Jewish people have been present in El Salvador since the early 19th century, starting with the Sephardic Jewish community and then continuing with arrivals of refugees from Europe during the Second World War. Now, El Salvador has a community of 100 to 300 Jews. The majority are established in San Salvador. Now, I think that this number itself fluctuates among different sources, but very, very interesting enough. So very interesting. So I think there's a record of Jews in Latin America since previous times, if I'm not mistaken, over there. And they would end up in El Salvador, I think, at one point in time. There's a lot chronicled over with regards to the history. But prior to, there was civil war, I think, at one time in El Salvador. There were about 300 Jews, most of whom lived in the capital. Now, during the Civil War itself, many Jews left the country after the 1979 kidnap and murder of a community leader, an Israeli honorary consul at that stage in time. I believe it was widely reported over for cultural reasons. I think his name was Ernesto Libas by the FARN, the armed wing of the RN, one of the groups that form, let's say, the FNLN over there. The Comunidad Israelita de El Salvador was established, I believe, in the year 1943, with a Jewish community center opening in the year 1945 and a synagogue in 1949. The country, let's say, has several Orthodox synagogues, including Beit Yisrael, San Salvador, and Shmaya Va'avtalion in the town of Armenia over there. Now, some, let's say, Salvadorans are descendants from crypto Jews or Anusim who were forced to convert to Christianity, but they would maintain some Jewish traditions for generations. And I think in recent years, some Anusim have returned to Judaism and formally converted with help of the Jewish outreach organization, especially one we have to note of the name Kulanu. Now, there's notable Salvadorian Jewish people. They include Benjamin Bloom. He actually funded the creative of the San Salvador Hospital, named after him. It serves all socio-economic classes of the country with no preferred treatment. 1990s would see a significant time period. By the way, we're going to go back to 1800s in due course. We're just gone on a bit. The 1900s will see the signing of peace treaties in 1992 led to the return of several Jewish couples with children who had moved elsewhere during the Salvadorian Civil War. Now, a new community center and synagogue were inaugurated in the past decade. The Comunidad Israelita de El Salvador holds service, I think, on Friday nights, on Shabbat mornings, and on various different Jewish festivals such as Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Chanukah, Purim, and also on Yom HaAtzmaut. There's a women's committee also over there that organizes meals for the community to share and celebrate together. It's actually interesting. University students over there, Jewish ones, universities, there's a Jewish Students Association. It's also called the EJES, the Estudiantes Judíos de El Salvador. And there's a Zionistic group there called FUSLA, the Federación de Universidades Científicas. I think last name over there is de Latinoamérica, both of which are active, let's say, throughout the year. Now, for adults, they've got a lot of programming. Anyone that's coming in live onto this video, we are recording the history of the El Salvador Jewish community over here. So if you're new to the channel and joined us live, please subscribe to the channel now. We've got some fantastic Jewish wisdom content every single day on tours all over Israel that we do on this channel over here. So please join our community, hit the subscribe button. I really, really appreciate it. Now, we're going to the programming in El Salvador's Jewish community. They have adult programs for the community, educational classes, for example, in Hebrew, and other topics of interest. The Chevra of women, that's one of them. They offer a course in Jewish cooking, And there is a monthly Jewish bulletin which is called the El Kihilaton. This advertises synagogue events. Now there's an organization called the Noar Shel Anu, which is a youth movement, to which I think 30 children aged between 8 to 18 belong. They meet weekly. There's kindergarten for young children. They meet weekly. 2 missionaries, they teach Hebrew and Judaism respectively. Now, relations with Israel. I think in 2006, El Salvador announced plans to move the embassy to Tel Aviv, where the rest of the embassies are located. This met, let's say, at that point in time with controversy, with many believing this decision to be under the political influence of the then president, Tony Saka, who was of Christian Arab descent. More recently, the current president reported over had attracted tourists and investors from around the world, including Israel, through his country's adoption of Bitcoin alongside the US dollars, I believe, the USD, respectively. Now, one of the synagogues there is in El Salvador is a Beit Yisrael. I was looking for information on it. I think it's a Jewish community synagogue in El Salvador, obviously in Central America. The community has daily services. They have a mikveh, a mini kosher supermarket, and the country's first center for Jewish studies, a kollel for, I think, called Ahum, respectively. I don't know if it's for an hour or two or how much of the day it is, respectively, but there is some information with regards to it on social media, and yeah, very interesting. I think it's connected to the Sephardi tradition, but that I'll have to check over. I think it's located on Colonia, Escalon, San Salvador, respectively, over there, and they have their own, I think, different channels, respectively, over there. Now, another place, I think, there's another key rabbi working there. I think Rabbi Isaac Abud, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure much information about him, but I think he helps with it. I think his synagogue place in of itself, I think it's very much connected to the San Salvador synagogue, if I'm not mistaken. His synagogue is. I have to double check on that. And he gives availability of kosher food, I think, especially under the kashrut stamp of the Bet Yosef, if I'm not mistaken, and chickens, providing community daily services, I think, minyan, if I'm not mistaken. There's a mikveh there, a ritual bath, and they provide advice for accommodation and community advice, respectively, also, which is very, very interesting. And so it's actually under the slogan, the San Salvador Shul, respectively, over there. So that is seemingly a Sephardic synagogue over there, respectively. So that's very interesting. Now, the synagogue of Salvador actually looks very, very nice. As I think there's actually an interesting article out there that was actually written, I think, in Latino press, in the Americas Project, the LDAP, within regards to the history of El Salvador. I think using resources from Dr. Rebecca Jefferson of the UF Judaica Library, where I think there's a collection of various different documents of community building efforts of Jewish immigrants in El Salvador, many arriving from the year 1920s, within regards to various different diagrams, and so on and so forth. So let's explore a bit more within regards to El Salvador, especially since 1944. The presence of Jews in the Americas is as old as Columbus's so-called discovery of the New World. In the same year, let's say, as Columbus arrived in what is now the Bahamas, groups of Sephardic Jews and crypto-Jews joined expeditions to the Americas after the 1492 expulsion of Jews from Spain by the royal decree. That's what's firstly, we can definitely start off with that over there. Now, by the late 16th century, there were fully functioning Jewish communities in Brazil, in Santo Domingo, in Jamaica, and other areas of the continent. Here at, I think there's a Samuel Proctor oral history program. They are documenting very well, I think, the presence of Jewish populations in Latin America during the more recent time periods, with a current focus on Jewish community in El Salvador since the year 1945. I think arriving a few years after El Salvador became an independent country, it's thought that the first Jewish immigrant was someone, the Alsatian-born Bernardo Hatz, respectively. Subsequently, the first documented, I think at that point in time, there was the first documented German Jewish person would actually come about. And shortly later, commercial businesses, banking, economic activities had been, let's say, main occupations of Jewish members of the very, very small Salvadorian community. There's someone, a key man, with the Max Freund, for example, became the first president of the community in 1943, and his family's, I think they had a famous hardware business, continues, I think, in operation today. So they started out. For that matter, I think the Jewish community in El Salvador has much in common with various other populations also, which we also have to point out, which is very, very interesting. So we're just exploring, anyone that's joining us today here on this special edition over here, we're exploring the history of the Jewish community of El Salvador here on this special edition. So if anyone is new or you've just joined us over here today, please subscribe to our channel. We're a community here. We're learning about great different Jewish communities. So please subscribe and join. I've got some excellent content over here for all of you. And so we said how commercial banking and business was thriving over there. I think after the Second World War, the Salvadorian policy towards the Jewish world reverted back to being more open. I think during the time period of the Second World War, it was much more closed. On September 11th, 1948, a shift culminated in the Republic of El Salvador, recognizing the State of Israel. For years, El Salvador was one of only 2 countries to maintain an embassy in Jerusalem until the year 2006. With a good diplomatic relationship, let's say, assuaged in and of itself the self-imposed exile that brought many Salvadorian Jews to Israel in the late 1970s and late 1980s. Yes, sorry about that. There was just a short interruption over there, short break, unexpected. Yes, sorry about that. There was just a short interruption over there, short break, unexpected with the connection. So we're just speaking over here about the history of the Jewish community of El Salvador. So everyone joining in, welcome to the channel. Now, after the Second World War, as we said before, the El Salvador policy towards the Jewish world would revert to being more open again. In 1948, on September 11th, a shift culminated in the Republic of El Salvador recognizing the State of Israel. And we said until the year 2006, there was good diplomatic relationship, which assuaged the self-imposed exile that brought many Salvadorian Jews to Israel in the late 1970s and 1980s, respectively, over there. Now, very, very interesting. Now, I think the all Torah Stone institutions, where they do excellent work, bring shlichim, various different rabbis all across the world, I think they have a relationship also with El Salvador, also respectively, enough to talk about. And I think what they have, there was someone named Rabbi Birnbaum would be working, I believe, at one point in time, I think, within regards to the community in El Salvador. And he was, I'm not sure if he's still in the position in of itself, but there was a momentous event that took place over there in El Salvador where Jewish couples were getting married, and I believe the Or Torah Stone President and Rosh Yeshiva Rabbi Kenneth Brander would actually come at one stage in time to visit El Salvador. And the Or Torah Stone organization, the rabbis itself, they really helped within regards to boosting the Jewish community over there, their commitment to Jewish life beyond local practices. They say that many people eventually make aliyah, I think, because of their great works, because of the Zionism and the Torah and the Jewish identity pride that's been brought upon them, and the various different educational institutions that they actually bring about to various different countries, which is something that we've got to speak about. There's this special Nidchei Yisrael program, one of 32 Or Torah Stone initiatives that dedicate, let's say, illuminating contemporary Jewish life through Torah values, and it goes all over the world. Now, I think this we're talking about over here, the El Salvador community. The community's growth was further strengthened by rabbis from the Or Torah Stone, a Strauss Amiel Mystery Training Institute, which was under Rabbi Birnbaum's direction, who contributed significantly to the development of flourishing life, especially in El Salvador. They helped in regards to daily prayer services, Jewish education, ritual observance, and obviously promoting the dreams, let's just say, people have of making aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. There's an Armenia community inside El Salvador which embodies power of Torah, illuminating lives, building thriving Jewish communities, and so on and so forth. And that very much is connected to Or Torah Stone. They brought people to El Salvador also. And each community in El Salvador carries its own rhythm, let's just say, in of itself. In San Salvador, obviously, Beit Israel will thrive with formal study, synagogue life, and full halachic observance. In Armenia, there's also community over there, and it's characterized, could say, described over here by just a website I'm just reading at the moment, by humble sincerity and growing knowledge. There's areas like Carasucia and San Marcos are more in the earlier stages of development, identifying as Jews, but don't have so much access to learning in of itself, respectively. Now, across the vibrant landscape of El Salvador, you could say a powerful revival of spiritual homecoming of centuries is actually in the making over there. There's many individuals, they trace their ancestry back to B'nai Anusim, Jewish people that are forced to convert during the Spanish Inquisition. They are visible now and determined to return to their Jewish identity and practice. This phenomenon reflects not just historical continuity, but a remarkable story, you could say, of resilience. There's grassroots efforts over there, supported by, obviously, we mentioned about the international partners such as Kulanu over there, which you mentioned about before. They are helping, let's say, in nature of a revival of blending ancestral memory with modern day dedication. And there's a man of the name Solomon Jewish, who was, was raised Catholic, but discovered his Jewish roots through family traditions like Friday night, candle lighting, Shabbat candle lighting, for example, and echoes across the nation. His journey from rural El Salvador to Jewish life in the United States inspired, let's say, a return among others in the homeland of El Salvador, respectively. So that's very, very interesting. So you can see the rich history with regards to El Salvador. Now there's Chabad house, or maybe there's multiple Chabad places in El Salvador. I think one of them was founded in the year 2023, about 2 years ago, by Rabbi Yehudi Broad and Rabbanit Moshka Broad, respectively. They provide, I think, Friday night meals, Shabbat meals, kosher prepared food for Shabbat, kosher prepared food for weekdays, weekday prayers, and Shabbat prayers, respectively. Remember the Chabad and Lubavitch branches, they do those important work all over the world. We have to stress out over here. And so we're not so sure exactly the amount of people the community has itself in El Salvador. World Jewish Congress will actually limit it to about 100 Jews, but according to other estimates, it might be more than 300 Jewish people in of itself. Despite, obviously, the small community is, they're able to maintain their Jewish traditions, religious life, and obviously it's strengthened steadily. You can see about all these different, it's represented by the Comunidad Israelita de El Salvador, the Salvadorian affiliate of the World Jewish Congress, as I mentioned before. I think the community director of recent times is Juan Pablo Osandon, respectively, and much can be said within regards to it. I think there was a key person. If we just go back to the history now, using the World Jewish Congress website over here within regards to that, I think in 1909 there was a famous man named Alfredo Widawa who organized religious and community life. He was one of the earlier people. He conducted the first Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services, and German Jews were the initial people that would settle in El Salvador during this period. We spoke already about pre-World War II, that period. In El Salvador, saw the Jewish community develop a sense of community, and they slowly, let's say, ingrained into Salvadorian life in of itself. Now, anyone joining this video at the moment, please subscribe to our channel. We give fantastic videos of Jewish history, Jewish community history in of itself. So please join our community and enjoy and subscribe over here. We're nearing 8,000 subscribers at the moment. Now, as Nazism would grow and unfortunately rise in Europe, many members of Salvadoran Jewish community attempted to help relatives escape from Europe. Some were successful in bringing their relatives to El Salvador, while others were forced to send them to neighboring countries such as Brazil, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Panama. Now, we've spoken about many of these countries before. Now, I think according to the Hebrew University demographer, someone named Sergio Della Pergola, he estimated that there were between 100 to 300 Jewish people as of 1993. Almost all Salvadorian Jews live in the capital, as we said before, or San Salvador. And obviously, despite the small community, it's very well organized and well structured. The Comunidad Israelita de El Salvador, was obviously the Jewish communal body over there in the country, works to ensure the Salvadorian Jews are able to live an active Jewish life. The current community center, where all activities are developed, is located in San Benito neighborhood in San Salvador, and I think is the, let's just say, the center of Jewish life in El Salvador. There's obviously the Jewish community has Beit Knesset, a library with hundreds of Jewish books, as well as meeting and recreational spaces over there, respectively. That's something we have to point out over there. Now, what about the Sephardic Jewish community? In this channel of ours, we're trying to explore Sephardi life in general there. different places down there. So El Salvador has a Sephardic spiritual leader. His name is Rabbi Elisha Salas, who works, let's say, with communities whose ancestors were forced to convert during the Inquisition. More recently, Rabbi Eliel Franco was appointed an emissary to help the community connect with Judaism and teach Torah and its traditions. Now, Rabbi Elisha Salas served as spiritual anchor for the B'nai Anusim community, which is comprised, let's say, of descendants of those forced to convert to Catholicism during the Inquisition. And he provides, let's say, mentorship, guidance, and religious education. There's another key rabbi, Rabbi Eliel Franco. He was appointed in early 2023, quite recently, by Shavei Israel to El Salvador. He teaches Jewish culture, Torah, traditions, and conducts social educational activities, help with seeking deeper connection to Judaism also. So that's something interesting that to point out. I think there's also, by the way, there is conservative synagogue. I'm not sure if there's a Reformed community in El Salvador, respectively. Seemingly, majority is Orthodox, but I would double check this also. Now, as we said before, Sephardic families itself arrived in El Salvador. One of the notable ones was someone named Herbert de Sola, who emigrated via Curaçao, and other Sephardic families arrived from Turkey, Egypt, and Tunisia, I think via France. An important entrepreneur in the history of El Salvador, de Sola, his name de Sola, helped to found the first synagogue and became an invaluable member of the Jewish community, not to mention the Salvadorian business community. In 1909, as mentioned before, Alfredo Vidawa was a virtuous and a religious, a mentor who joined the community, and his knowledge of Judaism allowed a small group of Jews to celebrate the various different high holy days at that point in time, despite there was no rabbi at that stage in time. So that's what we have to point out. There was many Jewish entrepreneurs. There was firms such as Casa Goldsricher, Liebes, and Casa Haas, inviting young Jewish bachelors to join the ranks in El Salvador. So you get some very good businessmen there. There was other notable pre-World War II arrivals, including Enrique Guttenfreund, Enrique Whale, Giorgio Salomon, Max Freund, I believe, Ernesto Reich, Toto Lassalle, and Federico Bloch, Jose Don Shepbaum, and various others. I think also George Lewinsky over there. Maybe connect there actually to Monica Lewinsky. Obviously, we know her from President Clinton and so on and so forth. Now, Max Freund, whose family, let's say, he had the hardware business, continues, I think, to this day, the family business does. He arrived himself in 1913 and became the first president of the community in 1943. He sat on the board of directors along with Herbert de Sola, Eugene Liebes, Alfredo Widar, and the first synagogue, I think, was founded in the year 1950. And it's very, very interesting. There was a rabbi, I think, that was over there, and I think first bar mitzvah was connected to Ernest de Freund, if I'm not mistaken, also, which is another thing. Now, because of peace treaty signings in 1991, there was a return of Jewish couples with children who moved. Obviously, 2006, the population of El Salvador was 60 families, and there's various different Orthodox synagogues. I think there's a conservative synagogue. And university students formerly had a Jewish Students Association, which is called the EJES, Estudiantes Judíos de El Salvador, which we mentioned about early on, both of which are no longer active, I believe. Adults as community officers for education classes, Hebrew classes, topics of interest. The Comité Femenino offers courses and social activities for women. And we mentioned about the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah classes. I think there's a rabbi from Argentina that came quite recently also to El Salvador. Now, Jewish contributions to El Salvadorian society, they try to keep a low profile, the people in Jewish communities, but they give back enormously in general to the country itself. Especially Leon Emmanuel Dreyfus of Santa Ana. He worked to establish the Ben Occidental, which was later transferred to the hands of the Bloom family in the capital of San Salvador. Upon his death, I think Mr. Bloom donated his entire fortune, approximately $9 million, to the government of El Salvador, with the idea of establishing a children's hospital. Now, today, the Bloom's Children's Hospital continues to be one of the largest and most significant pediatric institutions in the country. So you can see the abundance of wealth that was over there given there. There was an establishment of a Zionistic organization in El Salvador, I think through the help of Carlos Benhand and other people's tireless work, let's just say. The women of the community will inaugurate their own chapter of the WISO, Women's International Zionistic Organization. And I think Anas Lieb was named the honorary consul to the State of Israel in 1949, while Carlos Bernard became honorary vice consul in 1959. Community members were also founders to various different committees to establish America School of El Salvador, if I'm not mistaken, a sports club, Curcule Deportivo, a sports club. And Inu Craig Gutfried, who revived in 1934, would work with Casa Goltry Leaders, dedicating significant amounts of energy to helping the youth in the country itself. In various different pro-art projects, literacy projects, performing arts was also done in El Salvador. And I think many members today of the El Salvadorian community work with various foundations for environmental protection, advancement of women and children, and very, very interesting. I think connected to Hilda Rothschild Foundation, if I'm not mistaken, and other foundations we have to point out. Now, let's speak about Rabbi Elisha Salas. Rabbi Elisha Salas. I think he's a rabbi of the community. I'm not too sure how old he is exactly now, but he began as a Shabbat Yisrael envoy to the Bnei Amosim communities in northern Portugal in August 2010, all the way back then. He holds a degree in accounting and administration and has taught courses in religious studies at the University of Santiago de Chile. Now, everyone that's joining in, you're new to the channel over here, please subscribe to the channel, join our communities for free. We do fantastic Jewish wisdom videos here on our channel here, so please subscribe and join. Now, Rabbi Salas was speaking over here about the community, the Jewish community in El Salvador over here. Now, Rabbi Salas came to Israel, I think, in 1999. He lived in Jerusalem with his wife and 4 children. Immediately after he arrived in Jerusalem, he began his religious studies and rabbinical studies in the Sheheber Sephardic Center in the old city of Jerusalem. Today, I think it's certified as a community rabbi he is, and spiritual leader, a professor of religion, a shochet, a rabbi that would perform ritual slaughter of animals, and a meshkiach kashrut, a supervisor of kosher foods. So he was very busy. I think he was also located in Belmonte, Portugal, and where the community was formalized by converting Anusim in the 1990s and established itself as a Jewish community in all halakhic aspects. Just over there. Importantly, he teaches Torah, halakha, Jewish law, Hebrew, gives lessons to prepare bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah children, oversees the shechita and kashrut, to provide the community with kosher food. He also works with families as they go through Shiva, morning period, the Jewish community period, their cultural traditions, and transmits to the descendants of Moranos, Bnei Anusim, as we say, respect for social and educational activities dealing with normal Jewish life, as well as necessary to learn about the Jewish roots. He also helps, I believe, community teams tremendously also. That's something that we have to point out. To great effect. He helps prepare them, and very, very interesting. And he also helps, I think, people with find employment and encourages a love of Eretz Israel, encouraging younger people to settle in the land of Israel. Now, long-lost Jewish communities are in 3 Central American countries, not just in El Salvador, also in Honduras and Guatemala. And the Bnei Anusim, as also called, descendants of Jews forced converts Catholic during the Spanish Inquisition, has been led by Rabbi Elisha Salas. So he's also working in various other places. And he was sent by the courtesy of Shavei Yisrael. It's an organization that connects with and educates Jews in far-flung communities. Very, very important. It's very interesting. Rabbi Salas is a native of Chile. Obviously, he's based in San Salvador, which is the home of El Salvador. It's a population of 300 Bnei Anusim, all who practice Orthodox Judaism over there. His father, I believe, is someone named Miguel Salas. And he was always, when he was young, he was asking about Jewish identity, Jewish belief, and so on and so forth. And very, very interesting whole story within regards to him. I think he would study also, before he would study in yeshiva, I think it was part of Kibbutz Migdal Oz, and the yeshiva in Jerusalem, I think called the Shavei Israel. And I think maybe he was also in a yeshiva in Israel. And obviously he would walk around Jerusalem with Jerusalem clothes on, tzitzit exposed He has a long peyot. Black kippah stood out in Jerusalem. Actually not. White stones of the town he would have, and very, very great rabbi. And much can be said within regards to that. So so friends, everyone that's joined in, we have recorded a video over here of the Jewish community of Chile over here, a community that boasts about 100 to 300 people nowadays, depending on which source of information you look at. We've already spoken about Costa Rica, we've spoken about Panama, we spoke earlier on this week about various different South American countries of yesteryear, which we also have to point out. So we're trying to explore all the different great countries that have actually been about since the beginning of time. We've spoken about the Beit Yisrael synagogue, the Comunidad Sephardi Orthodox Beit Yisrael El Salvador synagogue also. We've explored about the various relations within regards to the community and the country in itself, the various different Zionistic groups they've had over the period of time, and so on and so forth. So we really are a community over here trying to build our knowledge on the history of various different countries. Remember, we spoke about Costa Rica also today, which you could categorize in the same group as El Salvador, albeit a slightly bigger community, but they themselves, I think, saw Jewish immigration in the 1500s, 1561, 1575. Just like that, we hope we can record also a video, hopefully in due course, about Jamaica and various other parts of the Caribbean. That will be a big ambition of ours, and to explain and explore much more in regards to Jewish life. If any of you watching this actually do come from El Salvador, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information within regards to your journey within regards to El Salvador. If you visited El Salvador also, please also send me an email. I would love to hear more information from you. I'll just go for a walk with you, and I'm going to tell you guys, fantastic people out there that are watching, what we actually do on this channel, because we do so much activity over here for Am Yisrael in general. Friends, on this, please everyone, first of all, if you're joining in this special edition exploring about the El Salvador Jewish community, please subscribe first of all to the channel. We've got fantastic Jewish wisdom and classes, so on and so forth, exploring about the life of great Jewish scholars, rabbis of yesteryear, especially from North African countries from the Ottoman Empire. We like to explore within regards to even Ethiopian rabbis we talk about on this channel. That's one of the important aspects that we are taking on over here. Now also on this channel, we are also now, our new project is exploring the life and times of different Jewish communities. Of yesteryear, we've already spoken about near 20 different countries over here. We're going to try and get to about 70 countries by the end of the series. So that's definitely an ambition of ours, which is definitely going to take time. On this channel also, we're recording about the history of various different synagogues in the different countries, Jewish life that there was, the religious life that happened to be in that community, who were the spiritual leaders, and so on and so forth. That's another project, a fantastic project that we're working on at the moment. We also, on this channel, record with an inspirational Jewish personality, a rabbinic figure here of modern day, where they give over a burst of wisdom for like a few minutes and say something on something current events or something spiritual to really boost everyone's day. That's another very exciting project that we're working on at the moment. And we do tours all over Israel. We like to explore the archaeological sites of Israel to encapsulate what it actually looks like and the beauty with regards to this fantastic country. So we do tours all over the city of Bet Shemesh, like where I'm recording from here at the moment. We went around all different biblical sites we're trying to go around in Jerusalem, and so on and so forth. That's another topic we're working on. We also, just like beforehand, I recorded a video on the weekly Torah portion. We speak about different Devar Torahs to do with the weekly portion. We also record on Hebrew month, and we try and speak also about current events affecting Israel and Jewish events, Jewish connected events also on this channel. We try and set aside time to do that also, so on and so forth. So many reasons to be enthusiastic over here, friends, and so much progress being made. So please, everyone, subscribe over here, join and enjoy all the content over here. Always great to hear a comment or feedback from all you great people out there. I like to record the videos in different locations also to keep, I've got ADHD, so I like to let's say, keep enthusiastic and go to different places. It actually helps me remember what I've said also by going to different locations. So I remember where I was on that specific day also. So it's personality also behind the videos, which is very key to this channel. I try and make it as exciting and as personal as everyone else. I'm just about to embark on a journey. We were in El Salvador. Let's just say we weren't physically in El Salvador, but we were definitely there in the spiritual realm. And very, very exciting. A lot of people give good comments over here, and thanks for the good comments. And anyone that's new to the channel, I can see a comment from someone named Shimon Aaron. I'm not actually affiliated to Chabad myself, but I appreciate all different rabbis, all different Jewish communities. I love the diversity of Judaism. I'm British, a Sephardi British Jewish person of origin. Obviously, we live in the land of Israel at the moment. So thanks for the comments over there. But I have a lot of friends associated with Chabad, and we spoke about Chabad also today in today's video, Lubavitch. Every country that we're going to work on in this channel, in this series, we're going to mention Chabad, because Chabad have centers all over the world. I think in every video we've recorded so far, we mentioned Chabad so far, about the rabbis over there we've tried to speak about, and the shluchim, because they're really doing very, very important work in all these countries. And but also at the same time, we're not just speaking about on this series about Chabad, we're trying to explore who are all the different rabbis inside the countries that we're speaking about. We're speaking about rabbis that might be sent out from the Dati Leumi community, from the Sephardi community, from various different Ashkenazi communities, and what are the local rabbis also. So we try and really do the best efforts. This channel follows Orthodox strand of Judaism. That's what we do follow about. But especially in some videos, we do also mention in the historic videos, say synagogues or communities connected to conservative reform, because they're doing a lot of Jewish work, also combating anti-Semitism. They provide Zionistic services. So one thing we are on this channel, also we are very, very Zionistic also, and appreciate efforts always of promoting Eretz Israel, combating anti-Semitism. So we will speak about in these videos on the different countries about we'll bring in other communities that are non-Orthodox from the perspective of Jewish life and culture, what they have to offer. But yeah, very, very interesting. So I think El Salvador, it's obviously tiny compared to, we spoke about Costa Rica only a few hours ago. We did a separate video over there. Costa Rica obviously also has a tiny Jewish population, but it's still much, much bigger than the El Salvador one. El Salvador Jewish community happens to be extremely small relative to all the other communities. So that's very, very interesting. So yeah, just gonna find a parking space here at the moment, just here in the city of Bet Shemesh. Nothing like driving in Israel, exploring Israel at the moment, and it's always a privilege to do it. I'll try and find out more information. Maybe we'll try and reach out to Rabbi Salas, who is a rabbi very much connected with El Salvador, respectively, and speak to him at one stage here on this series. It's great to speak to the rabbinic personalities of the various different places. They're very, very interesting friends. And yeah, I think I'm going to make a dash now, and a great day to you all. And thanks for watching. Thank you.